Um, so Kamlesh, you were asking about bhakti and the role of bhakti because, see, remember last time when we were discussing, I said there's a, the jnana marga and there's a karma marga, right? Jnana yogena sankhyanam, karma yogena yoginam. But where is bhakti? Any takers? There's a jnana marga, there's karma marga, which is these two. But what is the status of bhakti? Which means what? What does it mean? How does that relate to bhakti?
It's devotion, right? So devotion to work and devotion to knowledge.
Devotion to work. What does it mean? Devotion to work.
See the starting point, entry point.
Okay. Okay. So, see, the word like the Sanskrit words, right? Jnana, bhakti, karma. They do not relate to our experience as easily as, say, when I say orange. You can imagine what an orange is or a color orange is. But when I say bhakti, we know very proximal meaning of what it could mean. Because, for example, what is the difference between the common words that we use? What is the difference between alochana, dhyana and tapas? We know it is to do something with mind, but can we really define how each one is separate? What is alochana? What is dhyana? What is tapas? How are they different?
Sustained alochana is dhyana.
Sustained alochana is dhyana, okay. See, alochana means imagination. You imagining stuff is alochana, right? Thinking about imagining is alochana. Tapas is very deep thinking is tapas. Dhyana is a little lighter thinking than
Focused on something.
tapas is very focused, deep thinking. Dhyana is focused, but not as focused as tapas. So alochana, tapas, dhyana means so many different things. But when we use, we actually interchange. I was dhyana magna, you say, when you are actually doing very deep thinking. You should be tapo magna, not dhyana magna. I was doing a lot of alochana, you say, but you will be thinking in terms of writing. But it's not imagination. Right? So we don't understand the real, meaning of these terms, which we actually use in common language. Right? I mean, this is not just Sanskrit; it's in Hindi and all the other Indian languages. But we don't know the meaning because due to all those social conditions that India went through, the reflection on thinking of our own experience stopped. When all these schools became, they were all burnt, and all of those, the intellectual class no longer existed because of social upheavals. Right? There are historical reasons. But to get back to understanding what karma means, these are not mystified words. I mean, these are not religious mystified words. These are relating to common experience, our everyday experience. Right? So let me show what these mean. I need to erase this. What these map to, because it's talking about the three systems in us. Right? What does this map to? What does this map to? What is jnana? Nothing but cognition. Right? To know. Right? It's not spiritual knowledge, it is knowing. Anything knowing is jnana. Right? What is karma?
Behavior.
Behavior, right? So this is nothing but behavior. Right? This is to do.
I was just say action, but action.
Huh?
I was going to say action, but
Yeah, action. What does bhakti?
emotion.
Emotion, right? This third system. And this is to feel. Right? To know, to feel, to do. And what does this bidirectional arrow mean? One influences the other. That means we know by something that we know, we can feel. Right? Somebody tells us something, either it depresses us, it inspires us, it makes us angry, and all those navarasas, right? All these different feelings you get. Feeling can generate action. I feel angry, I become violent. Or I feel inspired, I do something. So cognition evokes feelings, feelings triggers actions. So we know this. What about the other way? Behavior can trigger emotions, right? You act a certain way, then you start feeling a certain way. So behaviors trigger emotions. What about emotions to cognitions? Very, very important. This is called bias, right? You know what you like, you ignore what you don't like, right? It's like you magnify what you love and you minimize what you don't like. All that is emotions influencing cognition, right? The same way, behavior, this is like sadhana. Behavior is a sadhana. That means, what is sadhana? Sadhana means that which you use as a tool to get to something is sadhana. That means, what is this behavior that gets knowledge? Krishna is talking about this, right? So he's talking about this. There are two paths here. 1, 2. What is the behavior that gets knowledge? Just anything. Reading books, right? Knowledge does not enter as just like you sit at home and then you don't get knowledge. You got to act, right? Learning activities is actions. Reading is actions. Asking questions is actions. Reflection is action. All of those things. So all of these things are what? Read, reflect, then question. All of these are actions, right? These actions we use as a sadhana, as an instrument, as a tool to gather knowledge. So now you know, right? Now you know that each one is connected with the other. You cannot have one without the other. Can you? Can you know without feeling? Right? Can one know without feeling? You cannot, right? Knowing and feeling are very, they are tied to each other, very closely. The same way. So these are all tied to each other. So the question of Arjuna was not about cognition and behavior as separate. These are all the three of them are tied to it. That's what I mean by jnana, karma and bhakti are tied to each other. You cannot have one without the other. You cannot take off your emotional things from your knowing or from your doing. You cannot. Right? So is that understood? So that was the question, right? Bhakti.
That's good. The only thing, there's no one superiority. One is not superior to the other.
No,
all
you
three are
cannot.
needed.
You get a good behavior, you get good emotions, you get good knowledge. So it's a positive spiral. All the three take each other up, or all the three take each other down. Right? So all the three are very important for each other. You cannot have real knowledge without positive emotions. You cannot think something and feel something, or do something.
If you listen to any Indian spiritual lecture, they talk of only bhakti. They say bhakti is important. Bhakti leads to everything.
Yeah, bhakti is emotional system, right? But emotional system by itself is useless. You feel, but you don't do or not.
Sometimes misleading when they say,
I don't know what they're doing.
They say
but
bhakti.
when you talk about bhakti, they are only talking about love for God. But it is much deeper than love for. It is an emotional system that you tap into to gain all the three, right? To make a positive spiral of all the three. Positive emotions like hope, inspiration, all of those things lead to a positive spiral up, knowing more, and then doing good things. All of them are related. When you have good feelings, you do good things. Then you know good things. It's a positive spiral.
Yeah, because they don't talk about that thing. They just say, that's why people don't understand.
That's why I'm saying. That's why it gets mystified, right? You think of bhakti as something, it's in a museum that we don't know, but it's nothing but our ability to feel. Love is an emotion, right? It's an ability to feel, and that is very, very critical for knowing and doing.
As long as it's not blind bhakti.
When you say blind bhakti, that
That
means
means you must have the right knowledge to
Correct.
actually do
Yes.
it. And then at the same time you do the right action.
exactly. Right? So that's what we need to
So,
understand.
I mean, so isn't each person that way, his hatha will determine what type of, whether it's more bhakti or whether it's...
Yeah, I mean, you can start with behavior and get all the three. You can start with emotion, get all the... I mean, it's what you're good at, right? It's. I mean, we'll see what Krishna says to Arjuna, later on. What is the path for us? How do you choose? But we can choose any and get the other two. Basically, what it is.
Sometimes when we look back in the Puranas, Ravana is Brahma Jnana, right? So
No, not number one.
he has a lot of spiritual knowledge from what I have.
He probably has.
Lot of bad things.
He has bhakti. Yeah, exactly. He has bhakti, but he has no change in behavior. Not any knowledge. Again, Ravana has one without the other two.
That's what.
That is not a real bhakti.
That's what.
A bhakti which does not lead to good things here is probably, it's useless.
People are preaching nowadays.
No, that.
No, but I mean, even for Ram at the end, because he managed to get the Gnan, and when he got killed, did he not get salvation from Ram when he killed him? No?
No. You're talking about salvation. I had a whole class about salvation.
It's probably the wrong word to use, but did not.
Mukti.
Mukti.
No, he did not get mukti. He became Shapa Vimochana. I mean, he had a curse that went away. I mean, that's all secondary. The point here is one leads to other, right? These are
Need all three.
And what is Arjuna's question here? Arjuna's question is very simple. He says, I understand this kind of action can lead to knowledge. Krishna is talking about what? War, fight, administer. He's talking about this. Right? Arjuna's question is, how is war? So I'll probably do this. I'll erase this and I'll show this. So let's say knowledge. So read is just learning activity. Just read is just a simple example of that. And then I should say this way. War. What do you think will lead to knowledge? Reading or fighting?
I think it's real.
Reading. That is exactly what Arjuna's question is. Hey, you said knowledge is something that we need to have. And you're also saying you need to go to war. Shouldn't you be saying, go read? Or in other words, go follow this path where you do sadhana, meditation, fasting, brothers, all of those things. Shouldn't you be doing this instead of asking me to do this? Okay? Do you understand what the question is? Right? So, now you need to tell me, Krishna has already answered this, how war leads to knowledge. How? This is clear. Studying leads. So this is the Jnana Marga, right? This is the Jnana Marga. This is the Karma Marga. But you need to convince me how Karma Marga leads to knowledge. And all the other positive emotions. How does it lead to knowledge?
It's going to eliminate bad elements.
Okay.
That's how it leads to good fruit.
Because Arjun is a karma yogi. He is born in a situation where he cannot go away from there. This is
Okay.
it. This is the truth for him. He has to go to the war, get
Oh,
done with his karma.
he can be a sannyasi too, right? He can go to forest.
The mind is not going to be in sannyas.
But he's a Kshatriya, he has to perform his duty as a Kshatriya.
Okay, he has a duty to do. But Krishna has not answered him. His simple question, hey, if this is important to have, this is the path to be in, why are you making me fight the war?
Because war allows you to put what you have learned in practice.
Like what?
Basically, to be detached from the outcomes. Understand that everything you do is to be done as an offering to God. Even if it is war,
Okay.
it is not that you are affecting destiny or changing destiny. You are just influencing destiny, and you are basically an instrument of God.
And you are
And
qualified to do that.
if you can dissociate yourself from the all those emotions and perform your task as per your duty, in this case it's a kshatriya,
And you have been trying to do that. You have been trying to do
Yeah, right.
then it really is the ultimate step towards knowledge. Means it shows that you've understood. It helps you understand, because life is ultimately a school of hard knocks. If you think about it this way, in this case we're talking about Arjuna, but it could be all of us. I mean, each one of us has to go through
Yeah,
our
exactly.
battles
I mean,
every single day.
this can also be your jobs, right? All of your job descriptions will come here.
So it's
But we have to follow this with the right emotion. That's how we go to lead to knowledge.
But knowledge leads to right emotions. Behavior also leads to right emotions. But again, emotion leads to right
Your
behavior.
question was how war leads to knowledge.
Exactly.
If we do the war with the right emotion,
But you need to know to have that right emotion. Right? And that's what Krishna said. The concept of yajna is what? Yajna is that which transforms this into an activity that brings knowledge. That's what yajna is. Right? And I'll show you one very... Can I erase this? Okay, let me erase this. Okay. So you can do whatever you're doing, right? Your job or your work. I mean, by work I mean everything that you do, not just a job. In three ways. Right? You can do it in sattvic way. You can do it in a rajasic way. And you can do it in tamasic way. Okay? Whatever you're doing. What is the tamasic way of doing? What is most preponderant in tamas? Ajnana, right? Ajnana is what tamas is about. So, what is ajnana doing? That means, first of all, inactivity, right? Inertia. Right? Inertia. And then, if you are doing it as a chore, meaningless activity, right? So, it's like, oh, Monday morning I need to go to work. Oh, yappa, you know? That is a chore, right? So that is an activity that is tamasic, because it has no meaning. But it's just a physical activity, painful activity, right? So that is tamas. That same work, it can be anything. It can be a janitor or it can be the president. If it is here, that activity will be a chore. It's or inactivity. Okay? What about rajas? What marks rajas?
aggressiveness.
Preponderance of desire, right? Activity, desire, activity. So, this is doing a job for power. Here, person is doing because for paycheck. Here, he's doing for bonus. You know, I want to be at the top of the game. I want to be CEO in 5 years. You know, what do you want to be in 5 years? CEO of my company. Ambition, right? All of that is a rajasic way of doing this. You know, growth, next level, going to the next level, bonus, this, all of those things. This is, you can call it career, right? Career, bonus, ambition, power, everything which has aham in it, basically I, right? This is rajasic. What is sattvic way of doing the same work?
Selfless.
Selfless. That is, doing it for the activity itself, for the meaningfulness of activity, not for the outcome. The people who do for the meaningfulness, the meaning of the activity, not for the outcome of the activity, or people who do things not for the certificates or degrees, but for knowing or knowledge, they come here. People who are doing like open source, they don't get anything, but you know they still do it so that people are helped. Or, people do without expecting anything. They are contributing. This is meaningful. This is meaning. Right? So this can be anything. You can be a janitor And you can be at this level. Oh, I have to do this work because I need to put food on the table. I have to do this work because in 5 years I'll be the supervisor and then I'll supervise 5 other janitors. Or I will own a janitor company and I'll make money out of them. This is taking that as a career or power. It's power. What about this? This is doing like I'm doing this. My job is not getting a paycheck, but I'm cleaning this so that when people come in, they are in good mood and they can be productive. That becomes
providing service.
Providing service, meaningful service. You add a meaning to that. That became sattvic.
That means you can't desire and have the sattvic at the same time.
No, you cannot.
So how will he?
I mean, all of us, we are going.
So
It's not like
when we educate, we go to college, we go to the degree. We all go up the ladder. So how is it possible if you adopt only a sattvic?
You cannot. We need to, but the state we are in, we are going, mostly, probably I would say 90% here, 10% here, or for some 50% here, 50% there, or 5% there. So I mean, we
It's a
go.
balance, right? You're going back and forth.
It's not balance, but some of them are tend towards here, some of them tend towards here, very little here.
But this is fluctuating all the time. This composition is fluctuating all the time. Means it's
Yeah.
never constant. Yeah.
It never comes. But the sadhana is to make this
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Absolutely.
Right? That's the goal.
Absolutely.
And how do you transform? That is the concept of yajna. Yajna is what? Doing something something which is greater than yourself. For yourself is rajasic. Not even doing it as a chore is tamasic. But doing it for something greater than yourself, for a sense of meaning, that becomes sattvic. Whatever activity it is, can be transformed into a meaningful activity, and that becomes sattvic. And that's what
The mind shift, isn't it?
it's a shift in emotion, right? Basically, it's a shift in emotion. It's a shift in attitude where it turns from a chore to a meaningful activity. And that's how a war, it's not just reading, even a war can turn into. See, basically, if you look at the first chapter, where is Arjuna's questions? Where does his question come? It's here. Because he asks, why are we fighting for a piece of land? I don't want to be a king. What is that? It is here. He is saying, war is for this. I think it is meaningless. We should not be fighting. Krishna is pulling him from this and giving him a vision of this. It's not just, see, fighting for a land is just a reason that everybody has assembled, but there is a higher thing. It is to, stop the evil in its tracks. That is the higher vision that you need to be looking at, not, as a piece of land that you're fighting for. If that is true, then this war doesn't make sense. And what Arjuna said is true. But this is the reason for the battle. So now, do you get that? How war can also be transformed into a meaningful activity that can lead to knowledge and positive emotions. And again, good behavior and the whole positive spiral. Good? Okay. Any questions?
This is the key, isn't it, for living? How do we convert our day-to-day activities into yajna?
Exactly.
That is
Yajna is that concept. Yajna is
of living.
do not do things for your own self, because there it becomes a selfish pursuit. Why is selfish pursuit bad? Because it gives you highs and lows. That's basically the problem. Right? You gain some, you lose some. When you gain, you're exhilarated. When you lose, you are depressed. And that's what the graph is going to be. Entire life is going to be up and down, up and down, up and down. Right? Krishna is saying you can transcend that and be in a state where nothing of these ups and downs matter anymore. That is here.
That's a sthita prajna.
That's the Sthita Prajna, right? Sthiti. Prajna is in a Sthita state, means it is no longer, it still is no longer attached to the ups and downs. Equilibrium. Equipoise. Right? And that is the state that Krishna wants Arjuna to go into and then see a higher meaning and purpose in whatever he is doing. And the key to this transformation of these two into higher meaning is what? Concept of yajna. It's it's looking at a higher purpose. Maybe, we should, whatever you are doing, just one example. How do you think you can transform it into sattva? Just one example. Anybody? This needs to be meaningful, right? This is the key.
This is the key.
Right? Anybody who's doing anything, do you have an idea how you can transform whatever you're doing, unless you're already in that thing? Like, Kamlesh is. Right? How do you? Anybody? This is a free class. This is a discussion makes it interesting. Otherwise, it will be monotonous.
So it's just shifting the attitude, how you look at what you're doing.
Yeah, no. I'm asking
So
for
like,
an example.
if you're, teaching, and you're getting paid, but maybe you look at it like I'm helping generations to understand and, go forward with the knowledge and those kind of things. So if you're looking at that way,
Correct.
if you're just focusing on what you're making,
Right.
that might help.
Yeah, exactly. And even for students, right? You're learning for A grade, or are you learning for actual learning and understanding?
This class is all about something.
That is at least the goal. Right? Anyway, there's no certificate, so don't worry.
We'll be beyond certificate.
No, but the thing is, in everything we do, we tie everything to some selfish expectation.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's the problem, is to reach that sattvic level, we have to kill that expectation, that selfishness that is tied to everything we do. We want to look good in front of our boss. There's a reason for that.
Exactly, yeah.
Not only that,
We sacrifice the real knowing and real understanding
That's right.
just to appear good,
That's
or
right.
just so that people can say, hey, look at this guy, he's successful. But inside he's empty. But to others he's successful. But we choose to be empty inside, so that others look at us as successful, right?
even when we volunteer, we want to be recognized.
Exactly, exactly.
Yes.
That's why we are, in here, right? It's all, we want to be recognized. I see some interesting stuff going on.
All the charities will come.
If it is not even caring for, recognition, yes, right? You're doing stuff to help others, then that's sattvic, right? So the point is, which Krishna will go, talk about in the end of this section. He says, any activity, anything, basically dharmic activity, not, you cannot transform, robbing somebody into a sadhu. You cannot, or being a serial killer into, you cannot, right? But any sattvic or any dharmic activity, anything at all, even being a slave or, even being the king, any of these activities in between, you can transform it into a meaningful activity. All you need is that change of attitude, which is what the key is. The master key is yajna. That's what Krishna says. Yajnartat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. If it is done other than for yajna, you have karma bandhana here. If you do it for ahankara, there is karma bandhana. If you do it for as a chore, there is a pain, karma bandhana.
It's almost like the story of Valmiki, Sage Valmiki. He was a hunter living in a forest, and that was his occupation. He would go and kill animals. And I'm not sure about the details, but he kills some innocent animal, and a sage who's walking by asks him, do you think that your family will share in your sins? And he says, yeah, absolutely, this is how I provide food for them. So they will definitely be willing to share in all the part that I'm accumulating. So he goes and asks his wife, and she says, absolutely not. He asks his kids, and they say, absolutely not. And somehow that triggers, I'm I'm not sure yet.
Yes.
But somehow that triggers a profound change in realization. It's virtually instantaneous, at least the way the story goes. And so that's very thought-provoking that something clicked with him. And he basically renounces everything he did. He detaches from everything. He goes into meditation. He tries to understand deeper inside him what reality is all about.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I think you're right. He was a lutar. He was called a lutar. He was a thief.
yeah, he was
And he actually went to steal stuff from Narad Muni.
okay, so
And that's when Narad Muni said, okay, yeah, I've got plenty to give to you, whatever. And then he said, first ask this question to you, which is good. It's a good example.
Good. At least it got you thinking. Okay. So Krishna has done his job then. Okay. So this is all fine, right? Yajna is fine. He says, what he says finally, Shloka 16, Evam pravartitam yajnam, evam pravartitam chakram, na anuvartayati iha yaha, agayuhu indriya aramaha, mogham partha sajivati. I mean, he's talking about yajna chakra. So, that yajna chakra is put in motion by our doing these activities. Right? Giving back. Paying, giving back from where we have got. Is that what makes it meaningful? If na anuvartayati yaha, he who does not partake in this yajna chakra, that means what? If we are not doing our duty of giving back. And I said, nature, if not voluntarily given back, what does it do? Forcefully it takes back. Right? It does. But then what happens is, he says, aghayuhu. His life is, agha means papa. His life is full of sins, papa. Indriya arama. All he is doing is for sensory pleasures. Mogham partha sajivati. His life is basically empty. He's living an empty life. He might be a successful person. He might be, in the topmost of the society. But inside, he's going to be empty. Mogham sajivati. Waste. His life is a waste. Right? If you do not do this. Then he says, of all this that everybody has to give, everybody has to, be in this activity, there is only one exception. There's only one exception. What is that? That's verse 17 and 18. Yastu atmaratireva syat atmatruptasya manava atmanyeva cha santushtaha tasya karyam na vidyate na eva tasya krutena artaha na akrutena iha kaschana na cha asya sarvabhuteshu kaschid artha vipashraya. So what he is saying is, yahatu, he who is atmaratireva syat. What is rati? Yeah, but there are different pleasures. Like priya is a pleasure, moda is a pleasure, santushti is a pleasure, rati is a, but they are all different kinds. Right? Rati is the pleasure that you have by seeing and hearing. That is rati. Is the pleasure that you, or the happiness that you have that comes through seeing and listening. That's rati. But here it is atmarati. Atmarati means when somebody, atmarati reva, that means when somebody is only in that. That means he is in this state of deep meditation where he is in communion with God, and that is the only happiness, source of happiness that he has. That is, the only exception to doing all this is one who is sitting in deep meditation. Atmaratireva syat, atmatruptascha manava. Atmatrupti means what? What is atmatrupti?
satisfaction.
Yeah, what is satisfaction?
Inner sight.
No, what does inner satisfaction mean? And inner satisfaction means he is in communion with God, but satisfied with everything else. He doesn't even need to look at. It's not satisfied with God. See, when you say satisfied means you don't want anymore, right? That state will never come. When communion in God happens in a deep meditative state, that is the only thing you need. You don't need anything else. So Atma Trupti means that the trupti that you get for everything else other than Atmarati. That is the bliss of communion and satisfaction with everything else. Atma truptisya Atmani eva sapcha santushta. Santushti. What is santushti? Tushti means happiness that comes with satisfaction for everything else. That is santosha, santushti or santosh. So what is santosh? What is rati? These are all names, right? Rati, Agnihotri. What is that rati? Right? Or santosh. Right? Santosh means happiness that comes with satisfaction for everything else other than the source of happiness. That is santosh or santosha in Sanskrit. Rati means the pleasure one gets by listening to or seeing something. That is rati. Right?
So is it self-happiness or is it happiness?
It is happiness in oneself through communion in God. I mean, there is no concept of happiness in oneself without a relation to God. The happiness comes in relation to God. As finally it is bhakti in itself as a goal. We'll come to that later on. But see, the whole goal is what? The whole goal is the attainment of happiness, right? And what is that? Is it knowing, feeling, or doing? What is happiness? Is it knowing, feeling, or doing? Feeling, right?
Yeah.
So in the end, we want to tap into that emotion. Everything is to tap into that emotion, right? And that emotion is sustained by communion with God. Nothing else will sustain it. Basically, that's what it is. So he says, one who is in deep meditative state or in samadhi, which is what is the description of all this, tasya karyam na vidyate. For him, there is nothing that needs to be done. That means, if one is in a deep meditative state, he need not do Pancha Mahayajna. He need not come out of it just to, give something to others, help others, do something for nature, do something for society. There is no need for that. Only if he is in a deep meditative state. And then he continues, why? Why is that? Because he says, na eva tasya kruten artaha. He is not gaining. Why do you do all this? The Panchamahayajnas. To gain happiness. He already has it. So, na kruten artaha. Coming out of his state and doing all this is not meaningful at all. Because he is already getting that bliss in his deep meditative state. Right? Na kruten artaha. Na akrutena iha kasyana. Not doing it is not faulty. Because you are not missing out on that bliss. You already have it. Right? So, and then, nacha asya sarvabhuteshu kaschit artha vipashraya. There is no need for him to be in social activities just to gain through those yajnas. Because he is already doing it. So what Krishna is saying is, only in the duration of this deep meditative state, is there an exception for anybody not to do this. Apart from this 0.00001% of people, probably in this age, everybody else has the duty to perform the yajna in all the 5 domains.
But is Sri Krishna also saying for that individual who is attaining self-elimination not to do anything?
No. Only when he is in the meditative state. When he gets out of it, he still has the duty. Which is what the role model concept comes from that. Right? Because he who knows can be the role model. We don't want an Ajnani as a role model. Anyone, we need an enlightened as a role model, right? So that becomes his thing. So, and then finally,
Sorry, what does deep meditative state mean then?
samadhi, where your complete focus and communion with God.
Tap or meditation or something? Or
Tapas. Yeah, that's
you
what.
can't be living in society, you can't be,
You can be. Well,
and still be in deep meditation.
you can be, yeah. But it's deep meditative state, like for Ramakrishna Paramahamsa,
Yes.
he would naturally go into deep meditative state, and there's an elaborate way of, getting those people out of that state. If you awaken them, they might go mad. So there are people who go into that state for 10 minutes, an hour, days together. all these different things. But only when you are in that state, right? It probably makes sense in Krishna's time, but not now. I mean, you don't see people in that state now. But only in that state is somebody is an exception to doing Pancha Mahayajnas. In every other state, even when that person gets out of that Samadhi state and awakens, he gets into the duties of doing the Pancha Mahayajnas. Right? So, and that's what Krishna is saying, everybody else needs to do except for this one exception, and therefore he says, Tasmat, therefore, asakta satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hi acharan karma param apnoti purusha. Therefore, he is completing this section. He says, asakta satatam karyam karma samachara. What is karya? Karyam karma means what? What has to be done. Karya means what has to be done. Karma is doing. Doing what has to be done. Samachara means do. Right? Karyam karma samachara. How? How?
All the time.
He said asaktam. What does asakti means? Detached. Detached. Right? Is there a concept of detachment in Vedanta? Is there a concept of detachment in Vedanta? Detachment? He's saying you should do your activities detached. But I will say you cannot. See, when you are detached from something, you are no longer interested in it. How can you act towards it? Detached attachment, right? There is no concept of detachment in Vedanta. It is detached attachment, right? And which Sankhya principle does that emerge from? Which Sankhya principle?
That nothing is permanent.
Correct, right? Change is constant, right? What happens when you attach to change? Highs and lows, ups and downs. So you should be detached to ups and lows, attached to doing. So that is what detached attachment is, right? So here, when Krishna says satatam asaktaha satatam karya samachara, means you do your actions with detached attachment. That is what detachment is. There is no real detachment. Detachment means you give up everything. There is nothing like that. It is detached attachment. Detached from ups and downs, attached to doing. Right? Karma, samachara. So, as an example, a student who is studying, if he is attached to grades and certificates, what happens? When he gets A grade, he is high. When he doesn't get it, he is low. What is detached attachment in that? Detachment to certificates and degrees, attachment to learning. That's basically it, right? Asakta means that attachment to meaning, detachment to Ishta. Right?
The push won't be there for the kid, the kid is getting low grade,
No, push is in the meaningfulness of learning.
But for
Not the
that
grades.
age,
No, of course, I mean, you cannot have Nachiketas in there. Yeah, right. No, but I'm saying as a goal towards meaningful learning rather than, certificates and all of those things. Right? Because this is the one that will stay forever. This is just, you're lucky if you succeed with this. Right?
between Rajas and Tamas.
Yeah, tamas is useless. Right? So,
But when people gets retired over the period of time, so is there any chance for them to, or most of the time, the desire would be slowly dying down.
Yeah.
They cannot go out and, in the career and stuff like that. So there's a possibility they can go.
no, this is not just career. This is any work that you do. Right?
In
Yeah.
general,
Yeah.
the mindset completely changes towards that period. Then, when you are, young age. So there is a possibility they can go between, the fluctuation goes more. than
From
time.
inertia to meaning.
You're
Yeah.
talking about the longer life cycle, where your youth, middle age, and older age, your percentage is cycling from one side to another, maybe, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you're mid-35, you're more registered.
Yeah, rajasic then
Where
towards
God, you're stuck in here.
When you're stuck in that, yeah. When you approach 60, then you maybe
you're
approach
forced to
shift further up,
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, as we grow old, we start having health issues, and so we start focusing more on the
Exactly.
That's what I was saying. Rajasic
So
possibility.
even though we don't have the distraction of career and we feel like we have fewer attractions and desires, the body becomes the big thing.
No, but I think that's just slightly because your body, it's not, in order to be sattvic when you're older, you have to do it from the young to the
Yes.
late. You cannot say, oh,
Correct.
now I'm certain age, so I'm
Right.
going to,
That's
it
right.
won't work. You have to do it from the young age, carry it on all the way, then you'll achieve it. Otherwise, it's you won't do it. Your mind will still be going, and your desires will won't be fulfilled. You'll still be going to
It has
watch
to happen
Bollywood
right now.
movies or whatever. Isn't it?
I mean, desires are there in every age group.
You do the reap when you're young, not
What's that? What's that?
I'm saying that when you retirement age, the desires only shift.
Exactly, yeah. Every age group has its own desires, right? There, you want grandkids, all of those things. That's a different desire. So, yeah. Again, you bring up a good point because, see, when I said everybody has this yajna as duty, means in every age group also, in terms of Vedanta, it will be every ashrama as well, right? A sannyasi or a brahmachari has this. What is his yajna? Brahmachari's yajna. Learning, right? It's like vidyadana, abhayadana is what they say. Vidyadana is to teach what one has learned in brahmacharya. Abhayadana is to help somebody who is in trouble. That becomes their that is their dana, actually. Dana. Like, they don't have wealth. Right? So, yajna, dana, tapas. Yajna, studying is yajna. What do they do for dana? They have no money. What they do in charity? Brahmacharya. They say vidya dana, abhaya dana. Dana need not be just materials. It can be giving of knowledge. It can be giving of abhaya. That means, helping somebody in trouble. Right? And then for a householder, everything is there. He has to give money, he has to give everything. Everything comes in householder. Which is basically in our adult life. Right? So that is that one. Then Vanaprastha has its own thing. They have one kind of bhuta, they used to live in forests. Right? Doing agriculture, providing food to people because food was available. They are not supposed to give wealth away because they have no wealth. Brahmacharya and Vanaprastha, no money should be given. Brahmachari should not even handle money. Vanaprasthas don't have money, they don't have to give money. So it is food. They have to give food and they have to, do spiritual practices. So everybody has yajna, dana, tapas. That is obligatory duties, charity, and deep thinking. All the three are there in every age group. Every age group. But it transforms. Not every age group has the same kind of giving. Right? A householder gives money. A brahmachari gives vidya and abhaya. A vanaprastha gives food. Basically, different things. But still, everything comes under yajna. So yajna is not just putting, offerings in a fire. Yajna has a very broad meaning, which is what Krishna teaches in the next chapter. He gives the broad meaning of the concept of yajna. Okay? So he says, asaktaha hi acharan karma param apnoti purushaha. That means, when one is able to perform actions in a detached, attached way, here, param apnoti purushaha. Whatever activity he is doing, through that activity can reach Paramapurusha, God, basically. Right? So he's saying, whatever you do does not matter. How you do it matters. So,
take it.
how you take it. Yeah, I mean, how you interpret what is happening to you. Yeah. So here ends yajna. Oh, we have some time. Any questions on concept of yajna? I think we have spent five classes on yajna. No questions? Is it the sign of understanding or sign of... See, both, it can be both.
50-50.
It can be both. What's that?
So detached understanding.
Oh,
You're applying your knowledge already.
oh my God. Okay, so now comes the question. Right? There is another duty in society, and this is very, very important. Krishna says, Karmana eva hi samsiddhim astitaha janakadayaha lokasangrahameva api sampashyan kartum arhasi. There is one more reason to do it. Even this meaningfulness, right, it is for us. Right? We are doing it for something beyond us. But we are doing something beyond us, again, for our own happiness, for our own meaning. But there is another thing. And to make you understand that, I want to show you something. Just follow me, okay? Extend your hand like this, 90 degrees. Okay? Bring the thumb and index finger together. Okay? Okay? Now, bring it to your cheek. What did I say? That is the fundamental thing. People do what you do, not what you say. Right? Some of you thought, why is this guy saying, cheek and keeping it in chin? Maybe, he forgot the name for this. Right? We explain. But then we think doing is right, saying may be wrong. Right? So, the concept of role model comes from the concept that people do what you do, not what you say. And that's why doing is important. Exactly, right? Role model as parents, and it's not just societal role models, right? Even in our house, we are role models for our kids, right? So he says, Karmana eva hi samsiddhim astitaha janakadaya. He says, there were people like Janaka, Sita's father, and all the kings of Mithila were known as Janakas, right? And they have reached this state. Priyavrata, Janaka, all these great kings have reached this state, Karmana eva, through actions alone. Can you do through actions alone? You cannot. But what he means is, through actions alone is action focused alone, through administration, through checking evil in its path, to providing environment, social environment, so people can cultivate good emotions. They can learn all of these. That is what they brought into. And they have reached their goal of siddhi or of mukti through that path of finding meaning through administration, through politics. Right? They've done that. And then he says, Loka Sangraham. Why did they do that? Loka Sangraham means Loka Sikshana. So that one can be the role model in society that one can look up to. Sampashan kartum arhasi. So you have to do not just for yajna. You have another duty. Why? Because you are a great man, people look up to you and say, hey, look, he did that. I should also do that.
But even in management, you look up to somebody who leads by example.
By doing, right?
By doing.
You follow the doing, not the talking.
Exactly.
So, then he says, and that's the beauty of it. So if you go to 21 verse, he says, Yadyad acharati shreshtaha tat tadeva itaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokaha tad anuvartate. Why is this? He says, Yadyad acharati shreshtaha. Whatever the great people do, the accomplished do, the successful do, tadeva itaro janaha. The common folks follow that example. The great, the successful become the role models in the society which people look up to naturally to emulate. Sayat pramanam kurute. Whatever they show us, the thing that they learned and they share, lokaha tad anuvartate. People latch on to that and follow that path. So it is so fundamental, so important to have role models. Who are our role models today? Shah Rukh Khan? Salman Khan? Huh?
Narendra Modi.
Right? Yeah. So, see, the point is here, show me the role models that you have in society, I'll show you what your next generation is going to be. And in India and in Hindus, it is completely lacking. Completely lacking. And that is why it is going, haywire.
One more point, and that's why Ram came before Krishna, right? Because Ram performed the action, and then Krishna came, and then he preached. So first the action happened, and then the preaching happened.
No, it's not like that, but see, that's called Jnanakarya and Balakarya, right? The avatars of Vishnu have two purposes. One is spread of knowledge, Veda Vyasa, Kapila, Krishna, they had Jnanakaryas. Balakarya means they came to destroy evil. Matsya to Narasimha to Vikram, all Trivikrama, all of these, Rama, they did a lot of Balakarya and nothing of Jnanakarya. Even Krishna did both. Krishna did both Jnanakarya, he spread knowledge, and then he also destroyed evil. So he did both. So even Rama did, I don't think he did any Jnanakarya, maybe some through Yoga Vasishta and all that.
Being a role model.
But he was fantastic role model. Right? He was a role model. Even Krishna is a role model because Krishna did not marry 16,000 wives. I think Krishna Janmashtami, I explained the story. I don't know how many of you were there. I told you what that exactly was. They were prisoners in Narakasura's thing. Okay, yeah.
No, but the thing is, Rama, for example, he sends Sita into jungle just because of what he overhears on the streets, what the people were saying, what their feelings were, and his attachment to duty or his desire to perform the highest level of duty and be a role model must have made him do what he did.
Your wife is here?
I got it recorded. That one thing is always going to be a huge outcry from women.
No. See, that is an example of human fallibility. Even though he was an avatar of Vishnu's God, but he was an avatar of a man, right? And he acted like a man. And man has failures, just like he has his successes, right? But he had a lot of good things, and there were some compulsions due to political things that happened. That is, you can consider some interpret as failures, some as you can go to mythology and all of those and talk about how you needed Sita to go, Prithvi, Prakriti Tattva needs to go back and all. So you can have different explanations, but the point is, man is not perfect. And they were emulating man and his failings and how you can still be good and be human.
It was not always 100%. I'm just comparing.
No, we don't have a number. Let's not talk about Rama.
I think this is where we look at the Sattvic, Rajas and Tamas. Let's not concentrate on the Tamas. Let's move more with the Sattvic and see what he did and what example he has to follow.
Right, yeah.
And
it can also be what political compulsions happen when you are a role model.
Exactly.
Right? So he did that exactly because he was the role model.
That's the whole
that he
point.
had to do it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
When you said duty,
Yeah.
he's a role model.
Role model,
Right? Yeah. And compulsions.
It's not that he liked doing what he did. He was anguished and he suffered because of what he did.
Right.
He missed both of his two kids.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So role model is very, very important in society. And if you don't have role models, if you don't have anybody to look up to, rest assured the next generation is gone. Right? Because they will look up to something. They will either look up to Shah Rukh Khan or somebody else. Right? And the role models that we have today, business people, right?
Yeah.
They say,
Power.
the power. I did all this, greed is good. I got all this power. And what that is yat pramanam kurute. If somebody gives a very successful guy, CEO, businessman, gives an interview, he says, I am successful because I was ruthless in business, I did this, this and this. What is he doing? Sa pramanam kurute. He's saying, this is what I followed. This is how I achieved. Lokaha tad anuvartate. People will follow that. They'll say, see how you can cheat and then you can be powerful and successful. So you are creating a role model. Media is very good at magnifying these kinds of wrong role models, right? All of these wrong role models, and the sad nature in Indian history is, what do you read in history? What role models do you have in history, Indian history?
War heroes and
Look at the freedom movement. All the real martyrs are thrown into the dustbins of history. You don't study about Bhagat Singh. You don't study about Ram Prasad Bismil. You don't study of all of those guys who gave their life. You only study about those who went through a diplomatic channel and got something in charity. You study that. You throw everything into dustbins. And what happens? You are not inspired. Is anybody inspired by diplomacy? I would have preferred Bhagat Singh or Ram Prasad Bismil at the centerpiece of the freedom struggle than having Jawaharlal Nehru. Yeah, everybody. But who reads extensively about Bose? Nobody does.
Who's written? Where's the literature?
Exactly. Who's written about it?
Exactly.
It's all right. That is exactly what the political role models that you need to provide to a nation. Like for example, in US, who are the role models? Who actually fought and won? They are the role models. In India, who are the role models? Gandhi, yes. Other than Gandhi, who else is there? Nobody. Right? And all the great people who actually did something, gave their lives, sacrificed everything, you don't study anything about them. They are in the dustbins of history. Right? And therefore, you have successfully destroyed the whole role model for the kids to look up to and feel inspired. Nothing. That is the very, very saddening part in Indian history. And Hindus, every example is, oh, this king lost to this invader. Right? That is all you study in history. Alexander came, he won against all these guys, and Islamic invasions happened, they destroyed all these kings. British came, they won over all this. Indian history is over. Gandhi came, he gave independence. Right? You cannot, history is not like that. It doesn't happen with one man. It has to be masses of people, and their sacrifices. Right? If you do not study this, how will you be inspired? Where is the role model? So this is so important a verse that Krishna is invoking here. Yadyad acharati shreshtaha tadeva itaro janaha sa yat pramanam kurute lokaha tad anuvartate. Right? So it is very critical to have great role models, because that is what inspires generations. Without that inspiration, you rest assured that generations is gone. And therefore Arjuna, history should not say Arjuna ran away from battle, because that is going to be a very, very bad example that you will be setting. And so it is your double responsibility, not just as yajna to stop evil in the track, but when you are doing that, stopping, fighting evil through your bhujabala, you are also showing others that you did something, you fought, and they will be inspired and take you as an example and fight themselves when they encounter evil. If you set a bad example, people will say, Arjuna ran away, so I can also run away. Right? Ahimsa is an example. For every losing, ahimsa is the example. Because you say, oh, ahimsa, I got independence through ahimsa, I don't want to do anything. Right? So that is the thing, the importance of role models. Questions? who is Hindu role model, or who do you think needs to be the role model? Because it's very important for your kids too. To need, I mean, you are a role model is fine.
For me,
Right?
it's Swami Vivekananda.
Yeah, I was just going to say he's a very good role model for children.
Yeah, Vivekananda. But you should have, many of them, not just one. Right? Who else? See, the thing that we cannot recall other than Vivekananda is a very sad thing.
No, what about Acharyas, Madhvacharya, Ramanacharya?
I mean, they're good. They're not role models.
But the spiritual leaders cannot be role models for the
I agree. I agree with you.
Somebody who is similar
Yes,
to them.
yes.
Ramanujan,
Oh, Srinivasa Ramanujan, mathematician.
great mathematician.
Yeah.
And also,
That's great.
I think Dr. Abdul Kalam wrote a book about saying
Chariots.
before independence or right after independence, we had so many scientists, there were so many accomplishments, but not after that because of lack of role.
Exactly. Lack of role model affects society in such deeper ways that we don't even understand that. Because if you want to look at Indian scientists, who is there? Right? You have to go 50 years, J.C. Bose or somebody, and people now they're either in the U.S. or they're U.S. citizens of Indian origin, and we still
You
celebrate.
know what can I say about this whole science thing? It's a very complex issue because the way Nobel Prizes are awarded, it's geared towards certain things, as opposed to others. So if
Yeah.
you're in the right field, you're automatically going to be considered for it, whereas if you're not in the right field, so it's much more complex. Than if there are Indian scientists who are more brilliant than, say, Western scientists, they're just not getting recognized.
Exactly.
Because that's the way the system works.
Why? Because the system doesn't work. The system is to create positive role models of the West. They're looking after themselves. Why do they want Indian scientists to get a Nobel Prize and be a role model for Indians? They're looking out for their society. They have created positive role models, and they have created a system to recognize those people so that they can become role models. Right? Where is the system in India? Where is the system in Hindus?
It's actually worse because there was an example of some scientist. His name was Sam Pittura. He was the IT guy, and Rajiv Gandhi brought him to India from here.
Yeah.
After Rajiv Gandhi expired, nobody cared for him, and unfortunately, he went bankrupt and he had to come back here. So it shows how politics didn't take care.
Exactly.
of the
It's all about
talent.
politics. Yeah. So that's the importance, right? If you want kids to do good, especially kids here, our kids, you need to have very good role models, and that is singularly absent in among us. Singularly absent. So, as our yajna, we need to think about creating things. Can be creating awareness of people, their stories, through temple. I had proposed some ideas with my friends here, to make calendars of Indian martyrs, not just Gandhi, but people that we don't even know the names. Any of you know Palasi Raja? See, nobody knows.
Yeah.
Right? No, do you know? No, right? He was a king in Kerala, right? Who fought Hyder Ali and then British with a small army. He didn't even run because he had a small army and British army was big. He used guerrilla warfare and gave them trouble for years and years. And finally, a traitor outed him and he was killed. But even today, he's celebrated. But in Kerala, nobody knows. I came to know only a few months ago. Nobody.
That way, there are many regional heroes, like Shivaji in Maharashtra. for example.
Exactly, I'm saying. So, see, regional heroes, you got to bring them to mainstream. Their stories should be mainstream. Their activities should be mainstream.
You read
Right?
about Shivaji in your history book? Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, one whole
Shivaji, yeah.
No, it is there in every.
Shivaji, exactly.
In history.
Yeah, Tilak. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a whole year. Yeah. Oh, one chapter. I learned it from the movie.
We saw that in movie, Palasi Raja, they made it movie.
Yeah.
Mammootty actor. Which one?
Yeah,
That's an island.
there is a one more king, Alluru Sita Ramaraju.
See, Andhra.
Andhra.
Correct.
Yeah, he fought against British.
See, I'm doing research in that.
Alluru Sita
Collecting.
Ramaraju.
There are people who are collecting names of all these martyrs and their birthdays. I want to make a calendar.
The Rani of Jhansi, she was one.
Jhansi ki Rani.
She was fighting with the Rani. How much more amazing is she?
Yeah, Jhansi ki Rani, Kittur Rani Channamma, Channamma. So there are all these heroes who can be role models who are in dustbins of history now. Right? So as a yajna, we have to revive that. We have to bring that. So because they are very positive inspiration role models for kids and for us too. I mean, I'll feel great and inspired if I read about Bhagat Singh and what they did and Ram Prasad Bismil and all these guys. Then if I read about some diplomacy and all of those things, that doesn't inspire me. Right? So it's very, very critical, important. Right? So we will see Krishna, everything that Krishna brings up in this chapter is very, very, Karma Yoga is very, very relevant. Concept of yajna, concept of role models, and finally concept of desire. What desire is.
So why can't Rama and Krishna be the ultimate role models to all of us?
It can be
including the kids.
Can be. But the thing is, they are very far,
So it depends on how you bring it down to the level.
See, it is like my role model should be somebody who is in my environment, right? That inspires me more than Rama. Rama is, much, very different environment, different age. Krishna is a different age, but his message is relevant to today, and that is inspiring.
Because the other thing is that in India, especially in the medieval ages, the saints, there was this tradition of saints throughout India that actually uplifted the masses, especially the poor masses. And I think their lives are also very inspiring too.
Yeah.
But not to the kids, maybe, but to the adults. I think reading about these saints is extremely inspiring.
Yeah. Okay, let's finish with the prayer. Om Vasudeva Sutam Kamsa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum Om